So Manzil was conceived of by my mother and a friend of hers who uh, were working with special children. My mother especially, I have a special sister, elder to me, and for about 30 years my mother volunteered at different institutions that work with special children, intellectually challenged. So that was the idea in 1996 when Manzil was started. Uh, my coming into Manzil was more of an accident. In 97, a year after that, there were two children who came from families of low means. Their parents could afford tuitions. They came to our home because of, again, my mother, because she's the most kind and helpful lady around. Even today, at the age of 85, every morning at 10, as soon as the driver is there, she's ready to go out to help people. She's just volunteering constantly. So it's kind of in my blood. But of course, I something had to happen, and that was these two children who came. And while I was, I got into helping them with their school math. While doing that, I was transported back to. I was 27 then. I was transported back to their age when I was a kid, 12 or 13 years old, and my impression of what the world is about and what should we try to do in it at that point and what it had become at the age of 27 after 15 years was so different that it struck me that children who are caught up in just their school and dealing with this reality that they suddenly discover. You grow conscious and you discover you're in school and school has its own demands and you're just meeting that all the time. Actually, don't realize how much more there is to life than school. And if we can bring that to their lives today, how differently they might shape up, not just in terms of skills, but in just their way of looking at the world. The mindset would be so different if the experience at a younger age of learning was beyond school, not just school. So that's really how Manzil shaped up. So I did an MBA, the usual thing, trying to get a career going, and out of all fear, so I did an MBA. Not really, into business, but I came from a business family, so I went there. But meeting a teacher of mine, so how much a teacher can influence you, or an adult who really cares about you, who brought in such new things into my thinking that I decided I need to travel. This is the teacher who had done a lot of travels and brought that into the classroom in my MBA. And I spent about 4 years after my MBA traveling all over the country without a project, without a plan, not knowing how long am I going to stay here, when am I going to move forward. And that really, I think that was really where I learned a lot of things which can't be encapsulated in curricula, in syllabus, in schools, in the four walls. It has to be done in that unpredictable way. So I had many ideas around what can come from exploring life, the ocean of life like that, rather than a little pond or a swimming pool that school is. So that's what Manzil has really shaped up to be in the last 22 years that I've been running Manzil and this youth, children and youth program. There are about 250 children, about 300 now. We are not increasing it more because my idea of scale is that you plant a seed and a tree goes to a certain height and then it doesn't keep growing. It plants more trees and then they grow. And so there are trees all over the world, but no tree is too big. Uh, and the children and uh, teachers, so the boundaries of children and teachers are blurred completely in Manzil. So whatever students learn, they're encouraged to teach further, take on responsibilities. Our youngest teacher recently was just 11 years old. Her class had students who were older than her, by the way. So we are breaking a lot of conventions. There are no certificates. So this happens post school time. Morning time is school. Post school time, not because we are trying to support them to be able to do better at school. We want to support them to do better in life. We all know that a lot of stuff that is going on in school is really not useful for life, right? There is a lot of stuff which is useful for life has not found its way in school.
Yeah.
And to give you some examples, my favorite example is trigonometry. I used to be very good at it in school. I did it really, really well. All the proofs I would do and get full marks. But that was the year 84, class 10th, when I completed that. After that, I have never ever used trigonometry in my life except to teach other children who are faced with trigonometry in their own school. So look at the cyclical nature of this, some things we are focusing on and teaching. Uh, so one would say, okay, there's something extra, it may be useful, but there are things which are useful, which find no place inside. For example, how to deal with a difficult relationship. Isn't that something to learn? And if school is the place to learn, then why isn't school dealing with something like that? And the difficult relationship is not just between friends, it will also be between someone and his parent, and later between you and your boss or your colleagues. These are all, very common situations that we are going to face all our lives. To relate to each other, to be able to understand the other person, to be able to express ourselves in a way where they understand us rather than feel offended by us by something we have said. And these are all things to learn. Why don't they find space in our schools or whichever learning space we have imagined? So there is really a need to reimagine our learning spaces. It was built for a factory sort of, when the factories were the dominant way of, catering to human needs, and therefore we have factory schooling. We have the same terminology. We have a batch, just as a batch of products, and we even use the word products. I'm a product of I am Ahmedabad. What does it mean, product? I'm a human being. Product is, doesn't have a soul. So things like that. So there are young people, children and young people of any age, from 8 years above, who come to Manzil. They don't come for a certificate because we don't offer one. So whoever comes, it's the learning, and everybody is encouraged to offer their own classes. So the students take a lot of initiative, and we have about 30 student teachers. We're also open to volunteers. Our whole core team is composed of our own, I can't call them former students, because they're continuing to learn. Now they're learning how to run an organization like that and create an experience for children. They be maybe at the age of 25 to 30, and the other idea that is very strong in Manzil is not to confine ourselves to curricula or syllabus, but to be open to anything in the world. Bring in all kinds of people, exchange ideas with them, learn from them, share something with them, grow in confidence. So it's always, safe voice for students always comes from valuing students first. When I say valuing students, actually it is about valuing everyone, irrespective of their age. So in our country, unfortunately, we practice a lot of ageism. So we listen to people depending on what age they have and how much experience they have. But it's not the quantity of experience, the length of experience. Every single person has a unique, body of experience because of where they were born, what came into their lives. A 12-year-old child may have had an experience that an 80-year-old person has never had. It's very possible. So why do we have to hierarchize everything? Everything is in a hierarchy here in our country. So even age is another hierarchy. Why do we have to do that? When we are talking to each other, why can't we just listen from our heart and express from our heart? And it's both ways. It's not like the students are more important or the older people are more important. It's everybody is important. So when you have this culture of everybody is important, it is almost automatic that there is a safe space. We worked with that idea from the beginning. Um, it's not an idea really, it's who you are, right? As you've grown up, the kind of person you are, the kind of family you got, the kind of experiences you got. That's how I am, and how uh, everybody has potential to be like that. It's just that we get affected by the kind of surroundings we're in. So we get kind of acculturated into not respecting people because of their age. It's just a matter of creating a different culture in your little OSs. Once you create a different culture, people experience it, they will even take it outside into the other spaces that everybody inhabits. So that's what has been the experience at Manzil. Safe space for voices there. I've already spoken of how the children are teachers, teachers are children. So the boundaries of teachers and children are anyway, the partnership of educators and learners is even more deep because the educator is a learner. It's not just there is an educator and there is a learner and they're partnering. The educator is a learner. The learner is an educator because the educator is learning from the learner, right? The roles are constantly, moving in a flux. And your third principle of everybody a change maker. Yes, of course. I mean, the first change we have to look at is if I'm not satisfied with what's happening in my life or in my little circle, well, are we waiting for someone else to come and make a change? Or do I feel the confidence of I can make a difference? And when you start making a difference in your little space, there's no reason why it will not keep expanding. Your daira, your limit keeps expanding as you keep realizing how much power we really have that we didn't realize. So this change making is almost automatic when you create a safe space. I don't think it even needs to be pushed as an. Yes, and also the role of confidence. See, confidence is very important to understand. If you are underconfident, you will not engage with what is available around you. If you're overconfident, again you will not engage properly with what is around you because you think you already know it. Underconfidence says, I can't learn, so let me not engage. So it's very important that and what is the right amount of confidence? The right amount of confidence is to be able to have the right evaluation of self. We are all evaluating ourselves, right? All of us, whatever age. It's not about children only. We are evaluating ourselves. Am I good enough for this? Right? So if you do over evaluation, it's overconfidence. If you do under evaluation, it's underconfidence. And how can you? It's like that person on the rope, the nut, who's constantly balancing to not fall on this side or that side. The rope walker. That person has got to be alert and watching and be self-aware. But it helps to have other self-aware people around you who you trust, who can then show things to you like a mirror that you may not be able to see, like something stuck on my face, I can't see, you'll be able to see and tell me. So it's the company of people who care about you and who you trust, because when they tell you, you will listen to it with an open mind and not just think that they're trying to run you down. That's kind of the space when you create. Confidence just blooms. People grow in confidence, and where they don't know something, they will learn and therefore grow in confidence. And change maker and confidence are intricately linked. It's when we feel powerless that we say, I can't do anything about it. But when I feel confident, I say, well, let me think of something to do about it if I don't like something. So you bring in change. Yeah. So I think it's an expression of that, something that we never even targeted, never even talked about in Manzil, but has happened in the last. I started noticing it only in the last 2-3 years. I didn't even realize it until a friend of mine pointed it out that, hey, there are 9 organizations that have emerged out of Manzil. Our students have created their own organizations. And why aren't you looking at them? Because my way of looking at them was, okay guys, you're now confident enough to not only find a job, but even to start your own organization. It takes more confidence to start your own organization than look for a job, right? So you're that level of confidence, so I don't need to do any more work with you. Now my work is with the new children who are coming. So you guys don't bother me. Just go away. Like, do your thing. Come back only if you want to volunteer and help me, if you have the time. And of course, as entrepreneurs, they are facing with a new set of challenges. And they need to pay attention there. They don't have the time to really come back and volunteer at Manzil. So they wouldn't come back. So I said, okay, I'm done with you. When my friend pointed it out to me that they are actually, they're taking Manzil outward. They are the seeds that are going outward. And if you can help with the challenges they're facing, and you don't have to do everything yourself. We just need to bring in all the people who we know, all our networks. They are the right kinds of people. Just create a platform. Then I suddenly realized that, there's so much happening. And these are only in the last few years. The ones who may have started earlier, because we never kept track of our alumni. It was a very small organization. For 14 years, it ran from my home. We paid no salaries, we raised no funds. It's just something that ran from my home. The children came, they taught each other. It kept growing like that. It's only in the last 8 years we have another space. That too is very small. We just got 3 rooms, 10 by 10 feet. That's where we operate from on a shoestring budget. Don't do any fundraising. Whatever funds come on their own. and they're just going out, and it makes the children really resourceful, because when you don't have resources, that's when you become resourceful. If you have a lot of resources, you don't become resourceful. See, look at the play of words that happens here. So yeah, it's this change making and the spreading of the seed is happening because of that confidence, and all these enterprises have come out for profit, non-profit. It's a mix. So the first advice I would give to young people who may want to start Manzil-like spaces is that don't always have to start something new. You can also see something that may be needing your energy. So there is this concept of entrepreneur, but there's also a concept of entrepreneur. You're entrepreneurial, but within an organization. So sometimes I find there's so much of a fad these days about this is my organization. There's an ego behind it. So when you have that attitude, then you have to start your own. Whereas there are other organizations that can't find the right kind of energy, the right kind of people. I can take example of one of my own students. A student of mine who's now grown up, and because of his Manzil experience, he set up a company of his own, Delhi by Locals, one of the enterprises, which is a travel company. But because he had had this Manzil experience, he also wanted there's a slum close to his office. He wanted to work with the children and youth there. So he created another organization called Learning by Locals. Now, Learning by Locals is working in a similar way as Manzil, but because he's got a business of his own, he's got very little time. He can only give weekends, but he's willing to hire somebody to run that center. And I'm surprised that he can't find good people to run a center on a salary, because everybody is interested in doing it for a couple of years and then getting us something for their CV and go off to higher studies and do something else. I'm sure everybody is not like that, but they are harder. It's harder and harder to find people who will stay with something and create some depth and some beauty over there. And he just had somebody join him for 3 months and then left, and now he's looking again. So I think the important thing is not so much to start something. The important thing is to be entrepreneurial wherever there are children. We have to shift our mind. The other thing I would say is your own needs. You have to be very calibrated about. If your needs are, all of us are, human beings are like that. Every child who's born is like a bundle of potentially unlimited desires. Right now the child feels I need only so much. As they grow up, I need this. When you get that, you feel happy for a while, then you need more. It's endless, right? If you're pursuing that endless kind of a dream, then you have no time to really reach out to others and to offer to others. As a friend of mine says that giving comes naturally when you have nothing more to take. It's not about I'm going to give. That's not the real space of giving. But nothing more to take, giving comes naturally. So I would say look at it very carefully, what your own needs are, how much of society has kind of pushed into you, conditioned you into thinking I need this and I need this and I need this. Actually, we don't need a lot of things that we think we need, so that you can really focus on what is meaningful and really create a rich life. Because life is rich not because of how much money you have or how many people know you, but because of how much love you get from people, real genuine love, which comes only from real strong connections with people. So I would say look at that, reduce those needs, and be very clear in your mind about what's important for you, and focus on what's important for you, and then this can get built. And one thing that I didn't do well in the beginning, I would advise people now to do. I had a bit of a chip on my shoulders when I started. I was from business school, and everybody went into the corporate sector earning a lot of salary, and I was someone who didn't go for a high amount of salary. So I'm confessing right now, I had a bit of a chip on my shoulders, thinking, these guys are all, after money, and they're of. I didn't even bother to keep in touch with most of my friends. I just kind of drifted away. But everybody has goodness in them, and everybody has something to offer. But we may be limited by our aspirations or by our fears. Everybody has a different experience of it. So I think I should have not had that chip, it was of no use. It didn't help at all. And just been open to invite everybody to join in and put their own contribution, ahuti, jisko kehte hain na.
Yeah.
Just put your own contribution, whatever they can, whatever they'd like to, from a pure heart.